Boiling Spring River. It is an impetuous, ice-cold stream at this point, about 12 feet wide, knee-deep, with a cobblestone bottom. Undressing our feet, we attempted it several times before we could cross. The water was so intensely cold, we were ready to drop down with pain on reaching the opposite bank. 3 miles further, we reached the wonderful boiling springs which Fremont has made known to the world. There are but 3 which we noticed. The strong carbonated waters mingling with bubbles of carbonic gas boil continually in the rocky fountains, within which they are set by nature better than they could be by art. In the center of broad solid rocks, somewhat elevated above the ground around them, composed by the deposition of their own waters, these springs ceaselessly boil. We speculated on the limestone cave which may somewhere exist above the springs in the heart of the mountains, since they are constantly bringing away limestone in solution. We drank deeply from these Saratogas of the wilderness, and leaving them in another mile, we were vigorously attacking the mountain. 2 days of very hard climbing has brought me here. If you could only know how hard, you would be surprised that I've been able to accomplish it. My strength and capacity for enduring fatigue have been very much increased by constant exercise in the open air since leaving home, or I never could have succeeded in climbing the rugged sides of this mountain. This is the most romantic of places. Think of the huge rocks projecting out in all imaginable shapes, with the beautiful evergreens, the pines, the firs, and spruces interspersed among them. Then think of the fragrant little flowers, so many different kinds. There is one little blue flower here which for some reason I cannot tell exactly what, whether it is the form, color, or fragrance, but it has had the effect to carry me back in imagination to the days of my childhood in my far down eastern home. I have accomplished the task which I have marked out for myself, and now I feel amply repaid for all my toil and fatigue. Nearly everyone tried to discourage me from attempting it, but I believed I should succeed, and now here I am, and I feel that I would not have missed this glorious sight for anything at all. In all probability, I am the first woman who has ever stood upon the summit of this mountain and gazed upon this wondrous scene, which my eyes now behold. How I sigh for the poet's power of description so that I might give you some faint idea of the grandeur and beauty of this scene. Rugged rocks all around, and the almost endless succession of mountains and rocks below, the broad blue sky overhead, and seemingly so very near, all and everything on which the eye can rest, fills the mind with infinitude and sends the soul to God. Julia Archibald Holmes.
A decision was made to leave the Pikes Peak region and head toward Fort Garland in New Mexico to replenish supplies. 3 wagons branched off at the Arkansas River and retraced their trail to the States. The remainder of the Lawrence party, in company with 3 gold seekers from the Green Russell party, made their way toward the Spanish Peaks and over the Sangre de Cristo Pass.
Arriving within about 12 miles of Fort Garland, we camped on a stream called Placer Creek, where we discovered evidence, as we thought, of mining and having been done at some remote period. We found old wooden wash bowls, a broken pick and shovel, and what took to be an old prospect holes. Some of our boys got busy at once with picks, shovels, and pans, and sure enough, in a little while came into camp with very perceptible colors of gold and some larger flakes in their pans. This was our first discovery of even a color since arriving at the mountains. Next day, a mounted courier on his way to the fort came into our camp and reported that he had come from the Georgia party on the Platte River near the mountains, and that the Georgians had struck $5 diggings there. The man seemed to be honest. He gave such details and particulars that convinced us of his story was true. This news had the effect of determining our party to return at once to the Platte. We drove on to the fort and did what little trading we could in great haste and struck back to the trail where our tracks were yet fresh in the road. Jason T. Yonker.
It was now mid-August. Another wagon separated from the party. This time it was James H. Holmes, wife Julia, and brother Albert Archibald. Traveling south from Fort Garland by way of San Luis, they arrived in Taos on September 8.
We arrived at where Cherry Creek meets the Platte on the 6th September, making the trip from Fort Garland, a distance of 225 miles, crossing the Sangre de Cristo Range en route in just 8 days. We called that going some for an ox train, though this phrase had not yet been coined at the time. We found some of the Georgians and a few stragglers from Fort Laramie and Salt Lake scattered along the streams and dry creeks prospecting. Some were panning and rocking where they found a rich spot, but such spots were generally quite scarce. Between the mouth of Cherry Creek and Big Dry Creek in the bars and banks of the Platte on the east side, we found colors almost any place, and after a little experience could find spots near bedrock where we could obtain 10 to 25 cents per pan. Jason T. Yonker.
The season wore on. By late September, the remaining members of the party decided it would be a good idea to locate a town site somewhere in the valley. The Lawrence party had in company a surveyor, William Hartley, who had long survey instruments. The first site selected about 5 miles from the mouth of Cherry Creek on the east bank of the Platte. This town was named Montana City, but it was decided the location was too far from the main trail traveling from Fort Union and Taos north to Fort Laramie, crossing the Platte at Cherry Creek. John Easter and Ross Hutchins moved down to Cherry Creek and founded the town of Auraria, Land of Gold. Others in the Lawrence party, including Adna French, Frank Cobb, John S. Smith, founded a town on the east side of Cherry Creek at the Platte, calling it St. Charles, later renamed Denver in honor of James H. Denver, then governor of Kansas Territory. On 8 August 1859, another group of citizens assembled in Denver to form the Colorado City Town Company. Members included Richard E. Whitsitt, James L. Winchester, Charles Blake, Seymour W. Wagner, Louis Tappan, Rufus Cable, Charles Purcell, Anthony Bott, George A. Butte, Thomas Warren, Jep Sears, and M.S. Beach. Cable and Beach were selected to go and stake Colorado City at the foot of Pikes Peak.
A beautiful sight, Mr. Cable.
Have you ever seen such magnificent sculpture of fanciful landscape, Mr. Beach?
I have not. There's nothing like it in Kansas. It's no wonder the native peoples have made this their home.
Well, we sure haven't seen much sign of them around here.
Oh, they're around. They're just not stupid. They're up in the mountains where it's cooler instead of down here where it's so damnation hot.
Perhaps, Mr. Beach. But I'd certainly choose this a place to live over that dusty, barren camp down by Cherry Creek that Larimer's promoting. I say if gold's found, I'll settle right here in our very own Colorado City.
Well, this will be a place many people will want to see with their own eyes when this land is settled. Why, I imagine they'll want to come in here by the thousands.
Most assuredly, Mr. Beach.
I would choose to live as close as I can to these magnificent rock formations. Why, this would be a capital place for a beer garden when this country grows.
Beer garden? This is a place fit for the gods to assemble. We will call it Garden of the Gods.
That we shall, Rufus. As usual, you've given the best name to this magnificent place. I say we get down and stake it for our own.